Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh, and we are finally here, the token distribution event for Flare networks. Many of us have waited over 2 years for this, and in this video, I'm going to go over my perspective on the value proposition that Flare networks brings, its protocols, and ultimately its token. And for 2.5 years, I have spent countless hours researching and trying to understand this complex new technology and these protocols and what they mean for the impact on the community, which is the XRP community receiving the airdrop, and on the overall industry, what the problem they're trying to solve, and how high of a valuation and how do you even value something like that? Because we are entering into the next phase of adoption and maturity of Web3 and DeFi. So before I even go into anything here, take everything on that speculative nonsense that's been going on in XRP community. That's all noise. I'm telling you right now, it's noise. Many of us came into this as investors and you wanted to make a lot of money. I think we still do, but things have changed and you have to accept change. That this is Web3, DeFi. Those are the things that are going to drive value in these networks. Institutions, enterprises, that stuff will come. But right now, we're in the phase where communities drive the value, drive the adoption of these networks. And Flare Networks has this key advantage. It has one of the biggest, most powerful communities that has ever existed in crypto, and the most influential. But we need to know what to do, and we need to exert our power as a community and drive the adoption. And participating in the network is how the network gets value and utility and bootstrap. So the Flare team has been designing this for 5 years. They've built 2 core protocols that allow Flare to do things that other networks cannot do. We have an opportunity to get in on the ground floor as citizens of the Flare network. Not as products, not as fans, but as citizens and participants of the network, where we bring value and utility to the network, and thereby we are rewarded with network rewards, which decentralizes the data on the data provisioning network. And we have governance rights. So we have a vested ownership stake in the network. There's the asset and the network. The asset is the native gas token, but that comes with an ownership right of the network. It means you get distribution rights if you're wrapping and delegating to FTSOs. That is the single largest way to earn massive amounts of Flare. The broader community does not visually see because it's not an easy, on the surface, pops right out at you. Oh, here's 40% APY. You could earn this. It's a little more complicated. The barrier is higher. The learning curve is higher. It's a little more complex. It takes a little more effort to understand. It takes some broader knowledge of blockchain and the DeFi ecosystem to understand how the FS system works, where cross-chain is going, the future. Most of the community sees this as a token airdrop, and that's about it. There is a significant number of the 5 to 10 million people who understand what this is. And that is all that is necessary. We do not need 5 to 10 million people as the foundation for the Flare network. We need a core foundation of participants who want to be there, who want to provide value and build the ecosystem. And with that, you get the benefits of being rewarded, and it's all about accumulation in the beginning. While everyone else is distracted by price, accumulation will be what the smart money will be doing, and then taking that FLR and putting it to work while still simultaneously earning the FTSO delegations and compounding them. And then the monthly distribution of 650 million Flare per month will come out. So that means 1 week to either purchase tokens, sell tokens, do whatever, and then there'll be an announcement that a vote will be in 7 days from that date, and then there'll be a random date chosen when the vote power will be recorded from. So the vote power for voting in the governance vote won't be at the day of the governance vote. It'll be a random block during the week prior's epoch. That proposal will then get triggered after 7 days of voting. If it passes the threshold, it gets triggered, implemented, and the 30 days start. And now within those 30 days, there will be 3 random snapshots. And the system is designed so there's no way anyone's going to game the system or front run, because the snapshots don't even occur until the end of the month. So once the 30 days is over, it then goes back and takes 3 random snapshots of blocks during that month of every account's vote power. So even if you're delegating it, even if you have it in different accounts, even if it's in this potential delegation account, they're going to call it, or escrow account, you still get recorded to your account. So the vote power is always attached to the token holder, no matter what. Even if it's delegated somewhere else, even if it's having its reward sent to crowdfund something, it's still the ownership of the token holder. And what's great about the design is that there literally is no risk by design that the vote power can have a bug in it, a smart contract can get locked, whatever could technically happen, and it will never affect your ability to move your actual token that the vote power is attached to it. It will never inhibit that, and you'll always be able to freely move. We're at the point now where you have to understand the technology to be able to just speculate and even come to a analysis of what is coming in the future, what the vision is, if this is going to be successful or not. If you don't understand the technology and how the mechanisms work, you don't have to understand every technical detail, but you have to understand why you're delegating votes, what the Flare Time Series Oracle is, and why that's a powerful component, because it brings in probabilistic data. The Flare team started as a research house and looked at what are the biggest problems in the industry. The core team are machine learning experts and masters and doctorates in that. So data provisioning is what the network is built on. And the Oracle systems allow for that data to be brought into the blockchain. Typical blockchains can't do that. This allows for dApps. The value will come from ecosystem build out and adoption, but this will take time. There will be a lot of speculation, a lot of noise, but understanding that this is an evolution and it's a early days of a network and a blockchain launching takes time, but it takes a community who's participating and has different roles to play. And I think that's so key of how Flare built. It's not just there's these VC proof of stake validators and then there's some new community. It's so different than that. We have independent FTSOs and we have validators, and then we're going to have exchanges running nodes and FTSOs. We're going to have bandwidth providers for layer cake. We're going to have agents in the system. And then you're going to have all the dApps that spin up. And we're going to have these attesters on different networks. So the vision of what they are trying to do is take Web3 to the next level, and DeFi. DeFi is the biggest use case in crypto right now. That is an absolute fact. And if you are not too familiar with DeFi, that's okay. It's going to be a constant learning experience every single couple months of learning something new. And everyone has access to the same information, unlike the legacy where only the elite or only certain Wall Street hedge funds had the early information. Now we are able to have more information than institutions will have. They're behind. So we have the opportunity as early pioneers. And that's how you have to look at entering the Flare network. You're receiving a token, or you're an early participant and you purchased it from some other means. That comes with a 36-month distribution. The governance proposal will be triggered after the vote, and I'll have a separate video that will go through that. But this is on the focus on what is the value proposition, solving the cross-chain interoperability problem in a fundamentally different way, and building the components that support the blockchain and those protocols. So building a tech stack that allows the dApps to integrate the data from other networks and execute contracts across chain and secured by Flare. This is something novel. So there is a lot of potential here. We are in a bear market. It's probably the best time to launch. And the opportunity, if I can't stress enough, is you have to look at yourself as an ownership in the network. You have governance rights. You get an interest for participating. So you bring value and utility to the network, and you get rewarded for that. That's what makes these networks run. They're decentralized, open, permissionless, censorship-resistant, immutable, trustless technologies. The XRP Ledger, the Flare network, that's what they inherently are. Understanding that is at the core of what we're involved in here. This is beyond a new asset class. The token that Flare doesn't have smart contracts, FLR. But once it's wrapped to WFLR, it gains these superpowers where it's able to have this vote power and delegate it to the FTSOs to help bring in data to the network. And you could simultaneously utilize this asset in collateral and vote in governance and earn the distribution. I've said this in multiple videos and times. It needs to resonate once people see it. And the early participation, I interviewed Hugo with Brad Kimes back in November, I think it was, of 2020, before the snapshot. And he was adamant about saying early participation will be heavily rewarded. To bootstrap a network, you incentivize. Now, that's what the FTSO is. And all you have to do is wrap your token and delegate to the FTSOs. There's a brand new update to Bifrost. Make sure you update. There's a new Flare portal. I'll post the link in the description. And that gives you even more fine-grained access. So you would put that link inside of the Bifrost browser to give you, and that's built by the Flare team. It's on their website and automatically connects. Hit connect and you just hit Bifrost and it's in your Bifrost browser. But you could do more things. There's a new delegation account, and we're going to go through that as more documentation comes out. These different yield streams that come in are the foundation for building a composable ecosystem of protocols and DeFi on top of the 2 or 3 products that are going to be built at the foundation, which is the F-asset system, the layer cake, and the relayer. The F-assets and the layer cake are not like other bridges. They don't lock a token and go 1 for 1. They are fundamentally like insurance protocols. They use collateral and a trustless group of entities who could be anybody. The network is inherently fair. So no one has an advantage over anybody else. And we could see that in the distribution. Once the distribution commences, everybody has the ability to then delegate to the FTSOs. The first 2 epochs will be non-rewarded, but I suggest you wrap your token and delegate, because every block can always be checkpointed in history, and an airdrop could be linked to it, anything. It could be whatever reasoning, and your vote power is always mapped to your account. And in Bifrost, you have 18 other accounts in the address derivation. And I know that some of you are probably saying, all right, this is a lot of stuff you're throwing at me. But there's been plenty of people who did tutorials on YouTube. I'm not going to do another one. I'm trying to take a higher level viewpoint here. And if you're new to Flare, you're going to have to get familiar. It's not a walk in the park. And be careful of certain content that you come across where you hear things, but if that person is not researched and educated, then you could get misinformation and you could be misled on speculation. We have a lot of great contenters. Flare community is awesome. Him and I have been here since the beginning covering Flare. And we run FTSOs on Songbird and Flare to support the network, and validator on Flare to be a part of this ecosystem. As I was researching the content, and I was like, this is something an everyday we could do and be a part of. And we have this great community to waste this opportunity and throw away the distribution. You could do what you want with your token, not financial advice, but just know that asset that you receive is 36 months of distributions. And it's going to be much higher than the original, because once the VIP passes, 0.1, that will be it. So these are the keys to the Web3 kingdom of the next generation blockchain going into the new financial system. This is the new financial system. You're seeing it being born out. You're involved in it right here. So this is where we need to pay attention. And it's going to come. It's going to come quick. And it's going to steamroll people in the next cycle. Instead of CeFi, it'll be DeFi. And it'll be Web3, metaverse, gaming. That's where we're going. Tokenization. Exciting times ahead. This much time should be looked at as an absolute positive. If you followed along with all the developments of what they have built and what they're trying to achieve here, and how they've expanded the vision to these 4 pillars of Web 2 composability, a multi-chain constellation where different state connectors on different Flare networks and Songbird networks, and maybe Algorand, all can connect in a very tight, intertwined multi-chain. That's even more intertwined than Polkadot or Cosmos ever could be, but has outside interoperability as well. That's the vision here. And they have the protocols, and they designed the components to make that happen. You can't just spin up one protocol and try to copy. This is complex stuff, and not gonna lie, it's not something everyone's gonna pick up on right away. But that's what makes it an opportunity. The next wave, they're coming. Different tokenized assets and data privacy is coming. All of that. We're seeing it. Even though things are as dark and grim as they could be, it looks like, crypto's world is collapsing on itself, and it's lucky if it survives. But underneath all of that, the builders are building for better infrastructure. It might just take a little while, but the opportunities on Flare are going to be massive. Accumulate, 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 and then deploy.
We make design decisions such that we feel the risk is limited, because we feel that if you can remove risk from blockchain or reduce the risk of using blockchain, then we have a much greater probability of becoming an industry that can support mass utility. Our game as an organization within the industry is to mediate the risk in blockchain such that people feel comfortable to use it. And as a result of that, the usage increases substantially. Almost all of the bridges you've seen, almost all the bridge hacks you've seen have an audit. And the audit process, to our mind, is somewhat broken. So a team will go away and build a product, and then they'll have a 4 or 5 week audit at the end of the product build. We think that 4 or 5 weeks is not enough time to get an audit team, an external audit team, to understand every aspect of how a bridge works or how a protocol works. So we think that the audit industry, or the way it's structured, is somewhat antithetical. The way we are building our protocols is by embedding the auditor into the build from pretty much day one. This costs us 5 to 6 times more to audit the protocol, but we think that is a substantially better way to do it. So that's one of the areas that we mediate risk. And then the last is testing. But we've been extremely rigorous with testing. We have a test net, then we have a canary net. So a canary net is essentially Flare, but it's an explicit beta version of Flare. So it's like our version of Kusama. It's where we intend to test our protocols. It's where we will also direct grant recipients to test their protocols. Because it's not just us that suffer from the potential for issues, it's every developer that builds on Flare. So we think that the more you test, the better. The more you test with real value on our canary net, the better.
I love embedding the auditor from day one. It's just a fantastic way to get them started.
We're relatively well capitalized. We have some very defined things that we want to ship, but we'd rather ship something that we've truly done everything in order to make it as robust as possible, because at the end of the day, we're building products that deal with people's money.
Of course.
And I do actually find the attitude generally within the space when it comes to dealing with people's hard-earned money to be a little bit lax. There are many cultures around the world where when you lose people money, there is a large amount of shame. And I feel as a development community, crypto could do with it, adopting that kind of mentality a little bit.
Yep.
It's not to say we won't have hiccups. We probably will. But if we've designed our products properly, the hiccups that we may suffer will be of far less consequence than if we design them in the way that many of the existing products have been designed.
So I was always of the mind that this system was going to be ripe for some kind of a disruption. And when I saw DeFi, I started to see where that disruption was going to come from. And I started to understand that this is going to be where it goes. And what I've tried to tell people is what you need to understand about this new DeFi system is it will start in the third world and it will grow from there in the second world, third world, and then it will come here and completely flatten you. I don't see us in any way being the leader in this.
Oh,
I think we are going to, it's going to be rammed down our throat is what it's going to be. And it just occurred to me that this is a brand new financial system and that this is going to replace the current CeFi financial system.